Jay, thank you so much for doing this.
My pleasure.
I jump right into it. If I would ask you about your influences, which artists would come to your mind?
The most significant influence was my brother, Nelson, who played drums. And there's a family photograph that exists of him holding me at a drum set when I was 10 months old. And because we have that physical proof of me holding two drumsticks, even though I wasn't strong enough to sit at a drum set or big enough to sit at a drum set on my own, I think that was the connection. And as far back as I can remember, just any memory whatsoever, I've been very one track about what I wanted to do in this life, and that's play drums. And I've been in love with it ever since I can remember. So I hold him responsible and a very important influence. And I looked up to him so much, and I learned so much from him as a player. I never took any formal lessons when I was little until I went to high school or college, but I watched him, and I learned all the important things from him. And also I was just so proud. So he was a really big influence, but he led me to his influences, like Gene Krupa and Buddy Rich, and a West Coast drummer named Sandy Nelson. He played a lot of surf beats, a lot of surf drums, a lot of drum solo type pieces. So those were the early influences. And then later on, as I started to do more research, there are so many that I think I can put them into compartments, different phases of my life, And it's funny because now I'm at a place where I'm going full circle and kind of going back to appreciating Buddy Rich again. I went through a phase where I wasn't into top chop drummers or facility, and I was more into listening to players that had more of a groove and played more time, and whether it's jazz or whatever. So I just went through the whole list of players that did that. But now I'm going back with different ears and appreciating Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa and drummers with a lot of chops and facility, but realizing how much musicality they had too. So it's anywhere. It ranges anywhere from those drummers to Al Jackson, well, James Gadson for sure. The drummers for Clyde Stubblefield and Jabo Starks and Carlton Barrett, who played drums with the Wailers. Lloyd Nibbs, who played drums with the Scatolites. I love reggae music. I love the roots of anything too. So I go back to the guys, the early guys, and Freddie Below, who's the Chess Records drummer. All of them really. All of the, as far as drummers go. But I've been really influenced and inspired by music that doesn't have drums. As a kid, I used to listen to music without drums. That didn't, like classical music or Debussy or music that conveyed a mood, or I would realize that I was having an emotional reaction to it, and it didn't happen to have drums or sati or anything that moved me. So I listened to a lot of music without drums, and I think that sort of informed how I approach music now. The song is first and foremost to me when I go to record something. I just did a recording yesterday with somebody, and we spent the day trying to find the song, chase the song, and we played it many different ways. And we finally got a take that everybody liked. And we listened back, and I just told the engineer to take the drums away. And we just listened to everybody else, and it was really beautiful. And it felt like, well, there's the song. So I do that a lot. I'll just, but like I said, the listening to a lot of instrumental music, and also a lot of music, vocal music too, without drums. Nat King Cole Trio with piano, guitar, and bass. Beautiful. It's all in there. It's just a different way. So so many things have inspired me.
Thanks. Yeah. Why do you create music? What motivates you to do that?
I'm not entirely sure. I just know that it, whatever, without getting too intense about religion or anything like that, whatever, I know there are people that believe certain things because it gets them in touch with their creator or this, whatever this is, whatever the power is, you know. I grew up Catholic, but I don't practice. I'm not of any organized religion. Music is that for me, and it has been from the very beginning. And I had to understand that, especially growing up Catholic and not connecting. I had a lot of questions, and there were lots of things that were confusing me about it. But music, hearing people talk about what religion is for them, music is for me. And ever since I was a kid, it has been, as soon as I open my eyes in the morning, it has been the very thing that has given me enough energy and hope and joy and pleasure to go out in the day and just exist. You know, it has gotten me through some really hard times. Always knowing that I can go play music, and you know, all the struggling financially, being a musician, being an artist, all of that stuff, that just goes away because of how powerful the feeling of music is. And I think I was just born with it. That joy and that, like I said, the picture of me as a baby holding two sticks. I had this look on my face where it was clearly the moment of contact, where I didn't know what was happening to me, but I was really happy in that moment, and it just continued for, you know, I'm about to be 53 years old, and I feel as connected, if not more connected to it than when I was first starting out. Like but it's a life force. It's a spiritual force, you know, and it, with that having that basic feeling, wherever that feeling came from, has opened up a lot of doors, has led me, you know, around the world. You know, we're meeting each other, where, you know, relationships are formed. So many things, so many perks, and so many positive things have come out of that. Just recognizing this one thing that really makes me feel this really strong love and strong feeling, and that I had as a kid. So I don't know if that tells you very much, but as far as like where it comes from, it just kind of happened to me, and I recognized that it's the thing.
Yeah. How did you acquire the confidence to play to your strength, or to play the way you feel it? Or was that always there?
I think maybe it was always there, but I had to learn how to harness it. I had to learn how to deal with it, because I think if you have too much confidence, especially when you're young, it can derail you. If you shut yourself off from... My mom saved me. I might have had a feeling like I really wanted to go out or I wanted to fight for myself a little bit more, but she always told me to respect my elders, and I did. Any older person that would come in and talk to me, whether they were an artist of some kind or whatever life advice they could give me, like my mom taught me to listen, and that helped me balance the urge to, or just wanting to find my own voice in music. And when I was younger, I didn't really know too much of what that meant. I had to really learn. I grew up in a small town with not a lot of interaction with other musicians, so it wasn't until I went to college at the Berklee School of Music that I started to meet people, and I started to play with people, and then a few years after that, I started to form an opinion about what kind of direction I wanted to go in musically. And with my mom's advice, keeping an open mind and listening to my elders, I met an important person that I met at college, who's the singer Paula Cole, who went on to have a pretty good career. And in the 90s, we were just friends at Berkeley, and we played jazz. We loved jazz. We loved listening to music together, and we're still friends. She's like a sister to me. And when I met her before she even started writing her own original songs, and when she started writing her own original songs, they weren't jazz. They were more influenced by Peter Gabriel or world music or Kate Bush or whatever, So I was right there along her musical development, and she always loved. I was her drummer. I went on the road with her, and she just gave me a home, a musical home, to be able to express myself. She wasn't trying to shut it down or make me play a certain way. She liked the way I played, so she wanted me to influence the music as well. So that helped build some confidence, and helped me understand, even though at that point I was a much different drummer than I am now, but it equipped me, it gave me the tools to, and also just it helped me identify that I wanted more of that in my life. I didn't want to just be a session drummer or player and play music that I didn't really care about. I wanted to play music that I cared about, that was ringing in my heart, and I wanted to play. I discovered that I had to be surrounded by friends or people that I cared about as human beings, and they care about me too, And being with Paula, there was a great guitar player, Kevin Barry, who now he plays with Roseanne Cash, and he's back playing with Paula a little bit. But we all grew up musically together, and we were friends first, and then we happened to play music. And I discovered how rich music can get as a result of people having relationships and having fun and going through stuff together. The music is just better as a result of that. So that helped give me a lot of confidence. And by the time I moved out here in 2000 to Los Angeles, I had a hard time fitting in, and I didn't feel like musically I was finding what I came from. And it was really important to me that I find it. And I just waited. I'm very patient in that way. So I didn't go out and try to force business cards on people, or I just waited for things to happen. And if they didn't really happen, I was going to go back east, on the East Coast. And then shortly after that, I met a group of people Joe Henry and Jennifer Condos, who's, we've been together for almost 19 years as a couple. And that was the first thing that blossomed, that it led me to believe I had made the right choice to be out here. And then that led to Joe Henry, and then T-Bone Burnett, and all of the stuff I've done with T-Bone ever since, the 15 years of working with him. But relationships have been formed within those basic relationships. I've met a lot of beautiful people, and it feels like home. And I think it's the confidence that I and also the knowledge that that's how I wanted to be a musician. I didn't want to be just play on a million records and not remember half of what I played on, or not really care about half of what I played on. I can't love all music, I mean, there are things that really, as a player, I try to listen to everything and try to be open. But there are certain things that really make me want to play drums, certain styles of music, certain musicians, and that inspire me, and that's where I want to live. And I feel very fortunate now, and at this time in my life, that I'm everything I do I love, and everybody in my life I really care about.
Did it happen then that you had the feeling that you had to serve the market on one side and follow your own preferences on the other? Was there a tension between those two, or?
I had to wonder if it was going to be possible. So many things had changed in the way music was made. You know, I listen to a lot of, I try to listen to contemporary music too, the music that's being made in the moment, but the stuff that inspired me is older music, and the way that music was made, whether it was early Duke Ellington music or Chick Webb or Booker T and the MGs or Stax music or Motown music or the Beatles or, you know, whatever, it was Led Zeppelin. There was an organic and quality to it, and people, they were doing overdubs too, but people were playing together, and people were really proficient on their instruments. They were really great musicians. I mean, people always ask or wonder why those records sounded so good. Well, those players were really great. That's a good place to start. I really started to get going as a musician on a professional level in the 80s. And I went to school in the 80s, and it was a terrible time to be an acoustic drummer because everybody was enamored with electronics, and it was all about drum machines and perfect time, and it seemed like an old-fashioned idea, the human playing an instrument. So that just got pushed aside for quite a while. And I had a teacher at Berkeley tell me that I would never be able to work in the studios of Los Angeles and New York City if I didn't know how to program a drum machine or a rack of effects, or because that was the trend at the time. J.R. Robinson, all of those guys, you know, and they all had to embrace it. Keltner, but he found his way into it. You know, he Keltnerized it. He still managed to make it funky and cool, and he still uses some of that stuff, and he did it his own way, and I really admire that. I've never had the fascination or the interest to do that with electronics. I'm really obsessed and fascinated with acoustic drums and just the resonance of acoustic drums and the power of acoustic drums. So I stayed on track and tried to kind of get through all of that. But that posed, to get back to your question, a problem with people saying, well, like my teacher, if you want to work, you have to know every style of music, and you have to play electronic drums, and you have to do whatever they tell you. And that's true for a certain niche or a particular path of career. But for me, I've always been wanting to preserve the joy of making music, and I ended up early on getting jobs outside of music so I could play the music I wanted to play and not have to rely on music to make money. Because I might have been playing music where I was making money and not happy. And to me, that's the biggest heartbreak in the world, is to be up there playing drums and be miserable. You know, there are easier ways to make money, you know, and I just wanted to keep the joy in it and protect it. So I turned a lot of stuff down. I turned a lot of music down that could have financially saved me and gotten me out of a couple bad predicaments, you know, in my early years. And still, you know, I'll get offers where the money is really great, but I won't do it. Luckily now, especially because of T-Bone, and T-Bone has embraced, he has used me on a lot of records, and he has really stepped up and been a great supporter, and people really respect him in the business. So I have an easier time now because I'm attached to him, to his, you know, what he has put out and all the records we've made together. So it's easier for me now. But it's just something that I had to keep an eye on. But it was a struggle. I was trying to stay open-minded, still be open-minded, but you have to fight for where you want to go. I think you have to try to pick your path. I picked my path, and that for me is just staying true to the music I believe in, and not let it be driven by money only.
Does it sometimes happen to you that you have the feeling that you are stuck or that you ran out of ideas?
Mm-hmm. All the time. Usually something happens right around that time that kind of blows everything apart, and gets me out of it. And a major step. I mean, this may be 3 or 4 years ago. A really good friend from Chicago that I went to college with, a fantastic guitar player, Jeff Parker, called me up, and he knew what I'd been up to, like what kind of music I'd been making, and also knew that I have loved jazz my entire life, but I haven't really had a chance to go play it with people. So he gave me a chance. He just said, he has that gig at ETA every Monday, and he wanted me to play drums, and I was completely honored to do so. But I also said, I'm not. You know how much I love jazz, and you know how much I don't play jazz. And he was very open-minded. He said, man, I'm calling you up because I want you to play. So I went, and I've been playing with him for a few years over at ETA in Highland Park. And that happened right at a time where I felt I had a really good run playing on records with different people and playing with T-Bone. And what happened as a result of, especially that record I made with Robert Plant and Alison Krauss, there's a certain aspect that people kind of honed in on from that record, a particular sound. And for me, it's a pretty quick death if you get locked into, or if you dwell on the past too much, or if you think, well, that's my sound, that's the way I play, and that's what everyone is recognizing. That was a reaction. That was a result of people, that particular group of people coming together. And I'm happy that people like that record and like the way it sounds. But there is a whole team involved. There's the great engineer, Mike Persante, who recorded it, and all the great players, and T-Bone's vision, and Alison Krauss and Robert Plant, and everybody. It just sort of just ignited into this thing. And I was starting to feel like I was just getting put in a box. And even if I would do sessions outside of T-Bone, people were referencing that stuff a lot, and they were asking for it. And I always feel like I want to go in and I want to react to whatever the person is giving me, whatever I want to be able to hear the honesty and the purity of that moment of what I'm being fed, and not think, well, I'm going to play like Raising Sand on this, regardless, because that's my thing, Mm-hmm. And so I felt like I was in danger of getting put in a box a little bit, and the fear of playing the same stuff over and over again, of going to the same things over and over again, put me right on the edge of feeling like I'm gonna get stuck. I don't know where to go. Is this it for me? Have I reached the point? And then Jeff called me up, and that threw me into a whole tailspin of music, and I was so out of my comfort zone. And it was the best thing for me. So along the way, throughout my life, moments like that they've happened. But I'm really very hypersensitive to the feeling of I'm just spinning in circles. I'm kind of doing the same shit over and over again, or I gotta find something else, you know. I always wonder, because this is a very small level compared to songwriters, and the blessing and the curse of having a successful catalog of songs. I mean, can you imagine what it must be like to be Neil Young and to maybe go play a show and not want to play Old Man or play one of those songs from Harvest, and there were people that go there and they want to hear those songs, you know, they want to hear. I'm not in that category, but I can understand the feeling of, you know, someone shows up, if they know me from Raising Sand or whatever, and they show up and they hear me play jazz, or they hear me play, and they don't make the connection that it's, you know, it's all music, and it's more of like, it's the communication, it's the reaction to the particular moment. I'm not gonna impose what I think people know me for. I'm just gonna react to music, and I'm gonna try to play music. I'm gonna try to be musical. That's what I want to do. But I really like just being tossed around and confused. I'd rather be confused than stuck. You know, just all of this. I was playing all this free jazz, all this stuff with Jeff, and then other people started hearing me play it, and they were hiring me to play jazz as well. And next thing I know, and then people are showing up to these shows, and they have no idea that I've worked with T-Bone, or heard any of those records, and they think I'm a jazz player, or they think that's what I do, and that's what sort of makes me free. It puts me in a free place. And it also, all of that stuff goes back into all the studio stuff that I do, you know. I remember reading about the Funk Brothers that played for Motown, all those Motown records, and they would moonlight. They would at night they would go play in clubs, and they'd work on these feels and these grooves, and they'd bring them in the next day. They'd start playing something, and Barry Gordy or whoever would say, "Oh man, what's that?" You know, like, heard it through the grapevine, or, you know, and they were playing some kind of Latin beat or something the night before in the clubs, and I love when all that inspiration and that freedom to push things too far. I mean, that's what I like about doing the jazz gigs around town, is just, I mean, you've seen me play the last couple nights, is the freedom to go too far. You know, try to be respectful and musical, but play things where in my body they feel really unnatural, and instead of closing it down and going to the place that feels comfortable and things that I can do, or you can just wear that out. I like going into the unknown territory and really walking on the high wire, on the tightrope, and, you know, you fall, you break things sometimes. But I'd rather live with that kind of danger than play it too safe and keep playing the same stuff over and over again. But there's usually, there have been a few moments in my life where I feel like I'm about to get stuck, and then boom, it just kind of, things just open up. And it's a matter of paying attention to those moments, I think. As you know, it's easy to let fear get in the way and walk away, and because it's like I said earlier, your comfort zone, that's what it is. It's comfort
Takes a lot
zone.
of courage to
Takes
step
a lot
out
of,
of it.
yeah. But there's such a great reward, and once you all the cuts and bruises go away, you know, you come out the other side, and you're on a different, you move to a different plane of inspiration and experience and sound and all of that.